Most people underestimate what one tiny action can do until that small step becomes the moment that changes their entire life. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me tell you something that might surprise you. Your biggest dream right now is not too big. You're just judging yourself too early. Most people quit not because their dream is impossible, but because the first step feels too small, too slow, too insignificant. But here's the truth. Every great success story begins with a tiny, almost invisible step. And the moment you understand the power of that step, you stop waiting for motivation. You start creating momentum. Stay with me until the end of this speech, because I'm going to share a perspective that has transformed ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Not by luck, not by talent, but by the power of small steps taken consistently. It might be the shift your dream has been waiting for. Small daily disciplines create big life transformations. It sounds simple, almost too simple, and that is why most people underestimate it. We live in a world obsessed with dramatic change, overnight success, quick fixes, and instant proof. People want to see the mountain moved on day one, not the first pebble shifted. But the truth is, the greatest achievements in life are built on foundations so small, so ordinary, that nobody notices them until the results can no longer be ignored. Small disciplines are not glamorous. They don't earn applause. They don't impress your friends. They don't give you a dopamine rush or a dramatic before and after story that goes viral. They are quiet, repetitive, and sometimes painfully simple. Yet, they hold more power than massive one-time efforts because they sculpt your habits, your character, and ultimately your destiny. Think of every successful person you know or admire. Their accomplishments might look big, but the process that built them was incredibly small. A writer becomes an author not by writing a book in a day, but by writing a page, then another page, then another. A person becomes healthy not by going to the gym for 3 hours once a month, but by showing up consistently, even on days they don't feel like it. Wealth is not created by one brilliant financial move. It's created by small, almost boring choices. Saving a little, investing a little, resisting a little temptation, day after day. These tiny disciplines are like seeds. They seem insignificant when planted, but time reveals what they truly were, the beginning of something much larger. The reason small daily disciplines matter so much is because of how they shape your identity. Every time you complete a small action that aligns with your goals, you reinforce a message to yourself. I am the kind of person who shows up. And once that identity takes root, momentum becomes natural. You don't need motivation to continue. You simply act in alignment with who you believe you are. Small disciplines slowly rewrite the story you tell yourself. For example, when you read for just 5 minutes a day, you might think you're improving your knowledge. But something deeper happens. You shift your identity toward becoming a reader, a learner, an investor in your own mind. When you wake up a little earlier to plan your day, you're not just organizing your tasks. You're developing the identity of someone who takes control of their life instead of letting life control them. Most people fail not because they lack intelligence, talent, opportunity, or desire. They fail because they underestimate the power of beginning small. They want big results in big leaps, and when the leap doesn't come, they give up. They overlook the truth that small steps don't produce a visible result immediately. They are invisible work, silent progress, unseen victories. And because the outcome is not instant, people assume nothing is happening. But growth is rarely visible in the beginning. Think of a seed growing underground before you ever see a sprout. Roots are forming, expanding, preparing. The unseen work beneath the surface is what allows the plant to eventually break through with strength. Small disciplines work the same way. Even when you see nothing happening on the outside, the roots of your future are expanding beneath you. Small daily disciplines also compound. Compounding is the greatest force in transformation because it multiplies small actions into massive outcomes over time. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't impress anyone, but it becomes 350 pages a year, about 15 books. Saving a small amount weekly doesn't feel like wealth building, but over years it grows into financial stability and eventually financial independence. Practicing a skill for just 15 minutes a day doesn't seem like mastery, but eventually you reach a level that people call talent, even though it was built brick by brick. Compounding turns the small into the monumental, but only for those patient enough to keep going long after the excitement wears off. Another reason small disciplines transform life is because they are sustainable. Big bursts of effort burn out quickly. Anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can be disciplined for a week. But very few can maintain consistency for months or years unless the actions are simple, manageable, and realistic. Small disciplines require low energy, low resistance, and low friction. That's why they survive long-term habits, even through difficult days when motivation is low. When the steps are small, excuses shrink too. It's easy to skip an hour of exercise, but much harder to justify skipping 5 minutes. It's easy to avoid working on a huge project, but much easier to start with a single paragraph or a single task. Small disciplines also create clarity. When you commit to simple daily actions, your priorities become obvious. You no longer rely on emotional swings or good moods to define your productivity. Discipline takes over where motivation fades. You develop a sense of inner order, and life becomes less chaotic. You begin to trust yourself because you see yourself doing what you said you would do, even in small ways. This trust is powerful. It strengthens your confidence, builds your self-respect, and eliminates self-doubt. Every small discipline is a promise kept, and people with self-trust can achieve almost anything because they no longer sabotage their own progress. And there's something else, something almost magical. Small disciplines attract opportunities. They make you reliable, consistent, and prepared. Doors open for people who show up every day, even when nobody is watching. Life rewards the disciplined because the disciplined are the ones ready when the moment arrives. Most people wait for opportunity before they start preparing. Disciplined people prepare long before the opportunity comes. So when the chance appears, they don't need to get ready. They are already ready. Their small daily disciplines have prepared them for the moment others call luck. The beauty of this truth is that it levels the playing field. You do not need special talent, superior intelligence, or perfect conditions to practice small daily disciplines. Anyone can do it. Anyone can start today, right now, with something simple. The path to transformation does not require greatness at the beginning. It only requires willingness, consistency, and patience. Small disciplines are within your control. They do not rely on circumstances, luck, or external approval. They rely only on your decision to act, even in the smallest way. Big dreams can be intimidating, but small steps are manageable. And when you take them daily, consistently, without rushing the process, you realize that transformation is not an event. It is a rhythm, a pattern, a lifestyle. Each step strengthens you. Each discipline compounds. Each day builds upon the last. Over time, those tiny actions create a version of you capable of achieving what once felt impossible. Dreams are built by consistency, not intensity. This is a truth many people overlook because intensity is exciting, dramatic, and noticeable, while consistency is quiet, patient, and often invisible. People love the idea of a massive breakthrough, an all-night grind session, a surge of motivation, an explosive moment of clarity that changes everything at once. But life rarely transforms through these bursts. Real change is created through small, repeated actions done again and again, long after the excitement has faded and long after the mood has disappeared. Intensity is a spark. Consistency is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark goes out. Anyone can be intense for a moment. Anyone can work with passion when emotions are high or when the goal is fresh and inspiring. But the people who achieve big dreams are those who show up on the days when nothing feels exciting at all. They show up when the progress is slow, when the results are invisible, when motivation is nowhere to be found. They understand that a dream doesn't grow because of how passionately you work once. It grows because of how reliably you work over time. Consistency is powerful because it builds rhythm. It sets a pace your mind and body begin to trust. When you repeat an action daily or regularly, it becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone who tries, You become someone who does. This subtle shift is what turns ordinary efforts into extraordinary results. A person who practices a skill for 15 minutes a day eventually surpasses someone who practices intensely for 3 hours, but only once in a while. The slow path often looks unimpressive at first, but over time, it becomes unstoppable. The intense path looks impressive in the moment, but it rarely lasts. Think of a river cutting through rock. It doesn't do this through the force of a single wave. It does it through the gentle, persistent flow of water over years. The power is in the repetition. The same principle applies to dreams. You do not achieve them through one big action, but through countless small actions repeated consistently. Each action is like a drop of water shaping the stone of your future. One drop is nothing. 10 drops are nothing. But when those drops continue day after day, the impact becomes undeniable. Consistency also creates familiarity. When you do something often, it becomes easier. Your mind resists less. Your body adjusts. What once felt difficult or uncomfortable becomes part of your normal routine. This familiarity reduces fear, reduces procrastination, and reduces overthinking. Many people fail not because the task is too hard, but because they never do it often enough for it to become easy. When you show up every day, even in small ways, the task becomes a natural part of who you are, and the dream becomes less intimidating. Intensity often leads to burnout. It pushes you beyond sustainable limits. People who rely solely on intensity usually approach their goals with an all or nothing mindset. They do everything at once, exhaust themselves, lose momentum, and eventually do nothing at all. They confuse effort with strategy. They believe working harder is the key, when in reality, working steadily is. Consistency protects you from burnout because it meets you where you are. It respects your energy. It respects your capacity. It builds progress without destroying your balance. Consistency generates compound growth. Every small action enhances the next one. Progress multiplies. Skills deepen. Confidence increases. Your results accelerate not because each action is huge, but because each action is connected. It's like planting seeds in a field. If you plant once with great intensity, you might fill half the field. But if you plant a little each day, eventually the entire field is covered. And when it all begins to grow, people call it success, even though what they're seeing is the harvest of hundreds of small, consistent actions done long before they ever noticed. Intensity creates pressure. Consistency creates mastery. When you work only during periods of intense effort, you tend to chase perfection. You judge every step. You criticize every flaw. You feel like you must do everything perfectly right now. But when you work consistently, you allow room for mistakes, learning, and growth. You don't need to be perfect because you'll be back again tomorrow. This mindset creates freedom. It allows you to improve gradually without overwhelming yourself. Another reason consistency builds dreams is because it strengthens discipline. When you show up regularly, you train your mind to follow through even when you don't feel like it. Discipline becomes a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows stronger the more you use it. Intensity, however, is emotional. It depends on how you feel in the moment, and feelings are unpredictable. Consistency does not ask you to feel ready. It asks you to show up. And when you show up repeatedly, discipline becomes a natural part of your character. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in achieving anything. Once you're moving, it becomes easier to keep moving. Once you develop a streak of progress, you feel motivated to protect it. This momentum carries you through the days when you feel tired or uninspired. It's like pushing a heavy object. The hardest part is getting it to move. But once it's rolling, even small pushes keep it going. That's what consistency does. It keeps your dream rolling forward, even when the pushes are small. Consistency also builds credibility, especially with yourself. When you do what you say you're going to do, you build trust within yourself. You stop feeling guilty. You stop doubting your potential. You stop breaking promises to your own future. This self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of confidence. People think confidence comes from success, but true confidence comes from knowing you will show up whether success is visible or not. Intensity is often fueled by emotion, but consistency is fueled by commitment. Emotion comes and goes. Commitment endures. People who rely on emotion rise fast and fall fast. People who rely on commitment rise steadily and stay there. A dream is not achieved in a moment of inspiration. It is achieved in thousands of moments of commitment. Moments that don't look special, moments that nobody applauds, moments that feel ordinary but are building something extraordinary beneath the surface. When you rely on consistency, you no longer chase motivation. You create habits that carry you even without motivation. You no longer hope for breakthroughs. You create a path where breakthroughs become inevitable. You no longer fear the size of your dream. You simply take the next step and the next, knowing that the journey will reveal its rewards in time.